Very cool. Hi everyone, it's Dr. Andrew Orr here. I just wanted to come on and have a talk this morning about a very important topic, and the beautiful lady here is Kath Mazzella, and we're going to be talking about some interesting topics, and especially we're going to be using the word vulva a lot. Actually, it's funny when you said that, when you just did that, Kath. Is that the reaction you get from a lot of people?
Well, I do, and there's this complete stigma around the vulva, and yet it's the most amazing part of our bodies, and it's where we have sex and everything else, and it's like, but we're still in this day and age, as empowered as we are as women, we still find the word vulva taboo. But we have to look at why is it taboo and how we can move forward. And I think by us talking to a medical professional as a lay woman, that, we all need to come together and make changes in the world.
Yeah, and this is it. And I think one of the things I see is that we all get taught, we get these funny names for our bits and pieces and our anatomy. And one of the things that I see that's always spoken about wrongly is they class for women as everything as the vagina, but it's not. So there's
on that
parts.
note, I'd like to say that there is a vagina cream out. It's called vagina cream, and it says to rub on your vagina, but not for internal use. Hello, what does that mean?
What does that mean?
It's confusing.
And this is it. So if you've got companies that are supposed to have researched all this and should know better saying that, then what hope do the general public have? So,
well, exactly. But you see, I had to go to hospital myself recently, and I told the nurse about my work, and she said that they still use the word vagina because it's what the community is used to. So how can we change that mindset? And I'll tell you how you do. We put a bit of fun into gynecology. Here we have the vulva, but if you look inside here, somewhere there, you'll find that the clitoris is inside the vulva, not inside the vagina. This is the vagina where the penis penetrates, and this is the vulva where a lot of the fun stuff happens beforehand.
That's exactly right. And that's why I show people with our little diagrams and that this is the vagina.
Well done to you. So what do you have for a vulva?
But I've got one somewhere, but my vulva has disappeared.
See, we can have a lot of fun with this, without being rude or crass.
No, we can't. And that's what I try and tell people, even when we talk about hygiene and stuff like that, that a lot of women don't understand that the vagina is self-cleaning. Yes, it is. But the vulva and around that area is not so much. And there's different, like we said, it's not just it's not the vagina.
No. But I in my research I thought, where does all this stigma come from? And I found the Latin word pudendum in the dictionary. And it says female genitalia, one who shouldn't ought to be ashamed, the shameful part of a woman. So that's why we all call it a vagina. So let's throw the shame out the window and the history out the window and start all over again and call a vulva, because I think if we could use the word when we're referring to the vulva and the vagina, well, then we could have vulva/vagina, to bring the two together. But when we're talking about the vulva, the outside, well, we talk about the vulva.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
You can see I'm very passionate about it.
I think it all probably stems back to in some of that sexual repression, that women weren't allowed to have pleasure and all kinds of stuff. And I think there's a whole stigma of past generations, and now we are starting to come out and be a little bit more open, but there's still a lot of this behind closed doors as well, and it needs to be talked about.
Well, what I don't understand is we went through a sexual revolution in the 60s and 70s and, we're all about the place, and then all of a sudden we shut the door. And I thought, but why did we do that? And even women in my age now, I think it's our responsibility to pass that knowledge on to the next generation of younger women, but it seems like it doesn't work. And if women's organisations want women to be involved, young women to be involved, well, then we need to show that we are proactive and be able to talk and feel comfortable about talking these things. So there's a lot of work to be done right across the board.
Yeah, a lot of gynecological conditions, while they are coming out now, even things like, as you know, the endometriosis, PCO, they're out there a little bit more now. But when we talk about vulval conditions and cancers and things like that, there's not a lot of information out there.
And that concerns me, that the cancer centres around Australia, I have the Cancer Australia Award for gynecological cancers, but even, you know, vulvar cancer, because it's okay, it happens to about 1 in 100,000. So really, does it matter? Well, to me, it does matter. I mean, I went to a lady's funeral yesterday who was misdiagnosed with vulvar cancer, and it really disturbs me that, you know, we can just let women go ahead and die with these things, even though it's extremely rare. But let me tell you, it's a damn hard road for these women. What a death for these women to have, especially in society when we don't call it what it is, when we hide behind the bush, when organisations who know about this information don't pass it on, when women's organisations are not addressing these issues. I better calm down. I'm getting.
It's great to see that you're as passionate as I am about this, and I love it. So, just so people that are watching this, can you explain what you're doing at the moment? Because a lot of people won't be aware, or some people will be aware, that all the work you do with Gynaecological Awareness and Gynaecological Awareness Week. Can you tell us exactly what you do and a little bit about your recent award that you got too?
Yes, well, it's been an interesting last 2 years, but I've been doing this for 25 years. But I have the Order of Australia Medal, and I received the West Australian Senior Australian of the Year in 2018. So I went to visit my son in that year. So I thought I would go up to the front counter with, this quilt. I took this quilt up to the front counter of BBC TV, and I thought, I felt embarrassed about that. A lady suggested I do that. And within a week, I was on Woman's Hour, Victoria Derbyshire show, and talking about vulvas and the gynae awareness. That I was scared out of my wits because it's happened so easily. But unfortunately, when I came back to Australia, I went to a community radio station and I said, oh, you know, can I come and talk about my ward and gynae health? And the reply was that their constituents wouldn't be interested in gynecological health. And, well, me in my position that I have now 10 awards for what I do, I don't accept that. People have pushed me aside for many, many years, and it's like I don't have a right. I don't have a certificate. I don't have a degree. Only professionals can talk about this, which is totally, totally incorrect, especially in this day and age, because it's like you being a professional and me being a voice for women. We need to work together, and you can see that you and I work together really well.
Yeah.
But a lot of medical professionals, I guess they have their reputation to look after, and they worked really hard to get it. And if it's not the norm for women like me to talk about vulvas, well, then they don't really want to join the campaign. Anyhow, I think I'm getting off track here.
No, that's all right. But tell us a little bit about your own experience, because the reason that you got into this is you've actually had cancer yourself.
Yes.
And you wanted to spread the word about women should be checking and getting things, early intervention, as I always say.
Yeah. Well, 25 years ago, I had an abnormal pap smear, and I went to 2 GPs and 2 gynecologists who said, oh, it's common to have lumps down there, don't worry about it. But my mother has had breast cancer, and my 2 sisters. And my mum said, Kath, it's not normal to have lumps anywhere in your body. And I thought, Mum, what would you know? What would you know, opposed to these 4 experts who've studied it forever? But it kept playing on my mind because it was uncomfortable while I was having sex. And so I had it biopsied in hospital, and they rang me 2 days later, when I was home by myself, and said, I'm sorry, that was cancer. The betrayal that you informed me about that on my own, that I trusted you, and so all these huge emotions came up with me, and so I went to the women's organisations after. Oh, that's right. Sorry. Then I had to go to hospital, have my clitoris, vulva, and lymph glands removed due to cancer.
That's a big, it's a big thing.
It is a big thing, but this is why I need people to understand why I'm so passionate that you cannot treat women this way. You cannot just telephone somebody and give them a diagnosis. And you cannot have women having their genitals removed without a better community education program. But people say, well, that's just the way it is. And even I was given a brochure back then with the ovary, cervix, uterus, vagina, and the vulva was always cut off or nowhere to be seen. And I used to go to some centres and say, but where's the vulva? And I was treated like I was trying to promote pornography or something like that. And I'll never forget those days. And I guess that's why I still lobby, because I hear such tragic stories about polycystic ovaries and endometriosis and how sometimes these women are treated. Well, that is not acceptable anymore, not while I have breath in me. Yeah. So at that time I felt very isolated, and the women's groups, said it only belongs to the experts, and they talked about babies and midwifery. But gynecology just only belongs to gynecologists. Well, so I put an ad in the Women's Day and in the Can We Help You line. All these ladies wrote me these horrific, horrible stories. And I thought, how does this work? Women are so in the dark, and sometimes they prefer to be in the dark because of the fear. But we're only because we're kept in fear. And I'm trying to break down a lot of those fears. So through that, I established a not-for-profit, which was called GAIN Incorporated. I'm a life member of GAIN, but I've moved on since then. I think we incorporated in 2000. But I found that we weren't sort of going anywhere. So I thought, well, if I become a speaker, well, then I can share the message. But I couldn't find, I still am challenged to find platforms for me to share this story. Yeah. Which is such a shame. Anyhow, we established the Gynaecology Awareness Day, which King Edward Hospital in Perth for women, they've celebrated the Gynaecology Awareness Day for 7 years. But how the day came about was I rang Amanda Vanstone, the senator, her office back early, and I said, look, I've got all these ladies' stories, nobody's talking about it, what can I do? And they said to have a national day. And I said, but how do I do that? And they said, well, you just declare it. And if it was that easy, I've now declared an International Gynaecological Awareness Day. So for those people that don't like it, well, that's just bad luck.
And that's it. A lot of people claim all these wonderful days that aren't really days. So surely you can claim that day for yourself.
Yeah. It's interesting. The momentum is developing, and women's groups are slowly but surely starting to understand. But you see, it takes somebody like you, Andrew, and that's why I value your work, because I can use your valuable information to be able to share with other women and help break down the barriers.
Yeah, and I think it's important that we all work together as well, because anyone out there that's a voice can help and lead by example. You don't have to be a healthcare practitioner. You can be someone that's had the disease and stuff like that. So I think that's an important, one of the things you raised before about you being missed. Never take anything on face value. I always say to people, if someone hasn't investigated, and no one's got a crystal ball, so unless they've investigated, never take their word for it. Unless they've biopsied something, investigate it fully, don't take their word for it.
No, that's right. But I want to point out here that after my treatment, my daughter used to have very bad period pains, and I used to think, well, we all have period pains. We all just got to put up with it. But I, as a mother, feel very guilty now because I didn't know endometriosis and polycystic ovaries existed. And I cannot believe that the young women in this day and age still suffer immensely with these things, and yet we need more funding and research into it. And so that's why I'm trying to break down the stigma. That's what somebody said. You're more about breaking down the stigmas than gynae awareness. And so I thought, well, how do I do that? So I just want to show you some of my other props.
I love all your props that you've got. I see them from time to time.
Here we have the uterus, and here's the cervix. I usually have some glitter on the bottom there, but I had filled up with Christmas decorations. So that's the cervix. And see, this is a fun way of doing it.
It is a fun way of doing it.
And here we have the the ovaries, which go into the uterus, but I can't do that at the moment.
There we go, like this.
Yeah, like that. Yes, we have something in common. And then I have this. I found this thing here, and this is the clitoris. I call it the clitoris.
Oh, a clitoris. Now we've got a new word for the Urban Dictionary.
Well, I have to sort of say clitoris to make sure I'm saying the correct thing. And I've devised this simple paper talk because we need to speak the language of the women in the community, not high-profile academics that have read this in a book for a long time. So
Correct.
to me, it just simplified it. And when you look at that, it probably think, well, it's not simplifying. But see, in the early days, this is where the vulva was cut off. And so I show this with pride to show that, you know, the vulva is something really special. Anyhow, it folds up to a little paper talk like this, and then it just got the conditions, and it's like periods. It's a monthly bleeding discharge from the uterus. So it just makes it easier for us to understand. But I have taken this to the powers that be, and they said, no, thank you. And I think, but what is it about my work that this is brilliant? And even a guy, even a midwife, a male midwife, he said, you know, that should be out in all the schools and everything, but it doesn't get accepted. What else I've devised is
it's the conservative people, and they forget that even those conservative people, they have a vulva, they have a vagina, and they could be one of these people that has cervical cancer or vulval cancer or endometriosis or whatever. So.
But I was told by an expert years ago that the vulva is not part of reproductive health. And so I went to a clinical professor at a university and I said, well, if it's not part of reproductive health, because reproductive health to me is about having babies, gynaecology is more about the conditions. And so I went to this clinical professor and she said, you're right, Kath. Yes, I know that the vulva is still part of it. So, you know, I just feel good when I know that what I'm doing, that, you know, is right. Anyhow, this I'd like to share with the community. I mean, it's just plastic wire that you can, and it's a fun way to educate people, and it's not an expensive way, because this has cost me my life savings, all of this. But, you know, for people that can't afford to do this. But anyhow, I've got my undies campaign, which unfortunately I don't have a pair of undies here at the moment.
We can put it up later. We can put it up and show people and direct them to your wonderful site as well.
But do you know Linda Pickett, don't you?
Yes, I've only through Facebook, but yes, she's doing a lot of work with PMDD.
Yeah, well, I've been doing the Undies for Better Understanding for a long time, but, you know, I'm not getting any younger, as you may well be able to tell. And so Linda we're working together for the Undies number 4, Better Understanding, and she's coming up with some fantastic ideas around the Undies campaign. And I'm just asking people to have a look and see how you can use this concept with your within your community, and especially around the International Gynaecology Awareness Day. I'm just trying to think of other things. I've got here my book. It's called The Not So Secret Women's Business, and it just sort of tells a bit of what I've experienced, what I have learned along the way. But then it's got the endometriosis and polycystic ovaries and things.
And where can people get a hold of this book, Kath?
It's online.
It's online? Yeah, it's good.
So you can buy that on, I'll tell you my website after. But the ladies are making, I don't know whether you can see this quilt. This quilt started off my journey because I went to a women's organisation and I said, you know, about the Gynae Day, and they sort of felt a bit funny. But when the Perth Modern Quilters made this quilt, I took it into these women's organisations, and the director called she's girls, come and have a look at this quilt, and asked me to speak at the 90th conference. So what I'm saying is that we are very visual as women. We're very, very visual.
And a lot of people are visual.
That's right.
Yeah, so and they'll learn more visually.
Yeah, so I do workshops with these cardboard cutout undies, and I'm really proud to say I was invited to speak at the Seroptimist International Convention in Kuala Lumpur last year, and I thought, my gosh, how am I going to say vulva in front of 1,000 women? But, you know, I stood there loud and proud, and they enjoyed my speech so much that I was invited to do an Undies for Better Understanding Dare to be Gynae Aware workshop with the Southwest Pacific women. So, you know, I'm showing you that, you know, the progress is happening, but I can't keep doing this on my own.
So one more thing, to get support.
Yeah. One more thing that's in the book, it's called the Dynamite song.
He got a song.
And I'll just read it quickly.
Yeah.
It says, ladies to the left, ladies to the right, don't forget your dynamite. Now is the chance to discuss what's in your pants. Sharing is healing. Tell us what you're feeling. We care a lot, so spread the cheer to look after what's down here. We are here to raise a cheer, so don't forget your pap smear. Shake it, shake it, shake it, shake it, shake it.
Love it, love it.
So it's a bit of fun, but you see, I've got my scrapbook of my journey, and I had a health scientist tell me that even she feels uncomfortable reading my scrapbook.
It's actually terrible, because what you're doing, you're taking a negative thing that's happened to you in your life and you're creating a positive experience, and out of that positivity you're actually trying to then create awareness as well to help other women. And I can't see what the problem is. I can't see it. I think there's a big issue here.
Yeah, well, but that's what I have to question. Am I too rude? Am I too upfront? You know, I mean, I don't think I am. But if somebody could tell me that, oh, this is happening because it's too scary for women or whatever. But when that woman died yesterday, the room was packed because she's done some amazing work for the children in Bali. The place was packed. And, you know, I just thought, and they all know that she had vulva cancer, and I sort of think, well, what are we going to do about it? So I did get a few phone calls last night and a few connections of people saying, well, what do you want us to do, Kath? So I've sort of got to find a way to, you know, to make this happen, but I can only see it through the Gynae Awareness Day, that, you know, we all come together, we all, you know, perhaps put undies up on the, but I must confess my GP, as she has organised with her manager, we're going to have a display with polycystic ovaries and endometriosis brochures and all the gynae bits, because why not? We have diabetes out there, we have all these other conditions, why not gynaecology?
Yeah, and especially then when we see now what impact it's having on the workforce, how much it costs per year for gynecological conditions, and a lot of people don't know this though.
I must confess, I went to England in 2008. I went to the Royal College of Gynaecology. Are you there?
Yeah. Oh, I'm bringing up keep talking, Kath. I'm going to bring up some stats for everyone in a minute. Yep, keep talking.
Oh, fantastic. Okay, so in 2008, I went with another gynecological cancer survivor from England, and we asked if they could help support the International Gynae Awareness Day. Well, they sort of said that we have to get a celebrity, we have to do this and have to do that, and it was too hard at the time. So 10 years later, in 2018, we both went back to the Royal College of Gynaecology in London and spoke about the Gynae Awareness Day again. Excuse me. And I'm now on the Women's Involvement Panel at the Royal College in London, and they're making huge inroads over there. And I'm hoping that we could do the same thing here at the Royal College of Ranscoll in Australia. I think there's still a little way to go with that, but you still got to keep applying the pressure to sort of think we want a voice for women.
Yeah, and this is where you've got to get other people to come in as well and share all this and bring out that awareness.
Absolutely. Can I just show you one more prop? This is, I've just ordered some of these badges, and hoping that people will buy them throughout the year, or even just for the Gynaecological Awareness Day.
I think it's important. It's a little bit like Endo Marches coming up. It's important to support that as well, with the little yellow ribbons and so forth.
Yeah, that's right. So the Endo people have done really, really well. You know, I've watched them over the years and I think, yes, it's so exciting, especially with my daughter having that condition as well. Yeah.
And I think what a lot of people don't realise too, when we're talking about, we come back to the vulva, like I put up here, that vulva cancer represents about 5% of malignancy, so it might even be more. And that there's, in Australia here alone, it's actually probably even more than the 282 new cases per year. But it is quite significant, and you know, a lot of the reasons behind that, you know, we've got HPV and so forth, and histories of cancers in the family, like you said, and cigarette smoking is another one that we see a lot, diet, lifestyle and all that, and other things. So this is where your pap smears are very, very, very important. But also things like lichen sclerosis we see a lot, and we see it even now and in young women, and it often disturbs me that I see parents going, oh, I'll just wait and see and leave it. And you're like, no.
No, I mean, the psychological aspect of all of these things is unbelievable, you know, but you see, I have tried and even get into mental health and gynecology to try and get that addressed, but it's like, well, all the other issues are more important. But I mean, when women have these issues, it automatically affects their sexual health, and so that affects the relationships. And if the men don't understand, you know, where are the men in the picture here? I have to confess that 18 months after my cancer, Tony, my husband, had 5 bypasses. So because he had to pick up the pieces and what the hell just happened. And so, you know, and even with that lady that died yesterday, you know, I looked at the husband and I thought, you know, who's been taking care of this husband whose wife has had all these issues and had to deal with it? And the men are getting left behind.
I talked about this today on another post, yeah.
Oh, absolutely. So, but I wanted to mention, I'm not sure whether it's appropriate to say, but I remember we had a sexual health educator come to one of our forums, and she said that if women sleep with a man who smokes, the nicotine can be found on her cervix.
Yeah, well, now we actually know that what a lot of women don't know, and that there is a possibility that because again, that smoking and that byproduct will be passed through the sperm, as well. But we also know that smoking byproducts are found in the cervical mucus of women as well. So a smoker is upping their risk of cervical cancers and other cancers dramatically. So I tell young women, don't smoke. Please don't smoke. It's not good for you.
But I think if, you know, if we can promote even that, you know, the nicotine can be found on the cervix, well, you know, we need to have a look at what that does to the cervix as well.
Absolutely.
But I think another issue is the sexually transmitted infections. You know, that's a huge issue in society, and yet we pretend it doesn't happen. I mean, I'm a life member of the WA Sexology Association, and with the stories and things that I hear on there, I sort of think, but why aren't the women's organisations dealing with this? I just don't understand, you know, because these are usually highly academic, qualified women. And I don't mean to put the sisterhood down at all, but, you know, we need to take some responsibility with this. Another issue as well is I know the pap smears have gone to 5 years now, and that concerns me in the fact that, okay, if that's the way it is and that's what, you know, we have to do, but where is the education when it comes to, you know, with the sexually transmitted infections and the, you know, what goes on there? And, you know, quite often you don't know what's going on in there. You can't feel it until something dramatic happens, and then you go and get checked.
That's right. It's leading to a false sense of security because there's no education in between in those 5 years. Even in 6 months, 3 months, a lot can happen. And if women aren't self-examining, feeling, because a lot of them are told, oh, don't touch, you know, don't touch your private parts, and things like that. So if you notice any lumps, bumps, patches, pain on intercourse, you need to go and get it investigated because you could have cancer. It's not just the gynae issues like endometriosis, adenomyosis, that cancer is. But
it could also be a sexually transmitted infection.
It could be a STI as well, and it's very common. We're seeing more now of women in their 50s who may be divorced and back out on the dating scene. So we've got herpes, chlamydia, gonorrhea is increasing, all these STIs, plus HPV. And we always say pelvic inflammatory disease, PID, is it's penis injected disease. as I say. So we've got to talk about it openly, but at the same time, women have to know about this and be proactive in their own health too, sexual health.
But the problem is, when you hear all this, as you know, and you've got nothing wrong, when you hear it all, you sort of think it's too much to bear. But the thing is, if you don't hear it, how can you protect yourself? It's like, I probably was one of those, you know, a busy working mother. I haven't got time to learn about that. And look what happened to me. Look what happened to Lynette yesterday. And look what happened to other women. I know a lady who committed suicide because of one of her vulva conditions. Yeah. And, you know, you think, oh, you can't talk about vulva cancer and committing suicide. And I'm saying, but why not? Because this is what happened to this woman, because she couldn't cope in a world that we don't talk about this stuff. So, but Andrew, I have to say, you know, being able to talk to you like this can almost bring a tear to my eye, because it's really hard to find people like you who see the big picture. And someone who's qualified like you are, and so damn open, and we can talk like this. I mean, how magnificent would it be if we could have more gynecologists to be able to be open? But I have to tell you, I'm going to a hairdresser's on Sunday, and this hairdresser has opened up her hairdressing salon, and a female gynecologist is going to be there talking about gynecological health.
That's awesome.
I know. I think that's so exciting. I can't wait to go.
Wouldn't that be great if you could have something like that happening everywhere nationally, rather than just in your local community where it's only reaching a small amount of people? We need to reach this worldwide. So I think you need to promote this World Gynecology Day and get it happening and get people on board with it.
Well, I've been trying, but my problem is that I'm no marketer. You know, I'm just your average woman in the community with 10 awards. But I'm not business savvy. But that's why I think Linda Pickett, I think she's on the ball. And so we just have to wait to see what she comes up with. But I think the Gynaecology Awareness Day is a great way to bring the endometriosis and all the other gynae issues together. I mean, they can still have their endometriosis day and things like that, but we need to bring it all together so that organisations like the Royal College we can work together.
Absolutely. And what day are you looking for as your day for World Gynecology Day, Awareness Day?
It has been the 10th of September. The only problem is, you know, I would like to put it on the table somewhere along the line that perhaps we could consider changing it to August, because it's during Women's Health Week, or just after Women's Health Week, and people are over it. It's on Are You OK Day, so that gets lost in the system. Yeah. But they've already got a big organisation backing that. And so I still haven't been able to quite reach the market that I need to. But what I need is a groundswell. And I'm trying to convince even people like yourself and doctors and women's organisations to perhaps put the undies up, you know, the cardboard cutout undies. My cousin put a pair of the cardboard undies up at her workplace recently, a corporate workplace. And somebody went to the manager and said she's finding it too confronting. But it's just a pair of cardboard cutout undies with some thing on, and you lift the top up, and underneath there is the gynecological diagram. But the manager then took it down because it was too offensive.
Yeah, and it shouldn't be. And we shouldn't be hiding women's health issues at all. So what you need to do, Kat, we need to pick a date and then get everyone that are listening to this to create that groundswell and get behind it. I mean, if we can have days like even Star Wars Day on May the 4th, I'm sure we can get a gynecological awareness day as well.
Well, it has been the 10th of September, and we'll probably leave it at the 10th of September.
Okay, 10th of September it is. Everyone, can you put that in your diary and let's get behind this?
Yeah, that'd be fantastic. And I'll send you a pair of undies for you to hang up yourself, Andrew.
Oh, all right. Well, thanks so much for coming on today, Kath, and I'm sure we'll end up working together a lot more and talking about some more issues and get you back on here again and talk about the Awareness Day when it comes closer to.
All right. Well, let's do that. And thank you so much for your time.
Nah, thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.